Welcome to Faithfulcrum, a podcast in which Scott and Mark have conversations about faith, spirit, creativity, meaning, and almost anything else. We don't always agree, so you don't have to either. But we do agree that a good conversation sometimes makes a great song.
Hey, Scott. So last time we were talking about, I think towards the end, we were talking about we're talking about evil.
Yeah.
And I don't remember exactly how I stated it or if I did, but I know that, I think that we did, that some people seem to be kind of thinking or feeling or fearing that AI has a kind of demonic quality. Did we get that?
Yeah. That's what you talked about.
Yeah. I mean, I guess I mentioned that I'm part of a group that has forbidden the expression of possible ethical use of AI and its general membership, in the forums. And I had meant to talk about a story, and I thought I would bring it up now. It's called The Great C, and C here is just the letter C.
Okay.
By an author named Philip K. Dick. I think I mentioned him in an earlier episode.
Yeah,
the guy who kind of created our modern sense of the Matrix, of living in a simulation.
Right.
He's the most filmed science fiction writer of all at the moment. And if the films that owed him a serious debt and possible listed him, acknowledged him, it would be far more. I mean, films like The Matrix owe him a great debt, but also The Truman Show.
Yeah, right.
I mean, that could easily have just opened with based on a short story by Philip K. Dick. It certainly is.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not accusing anyone of anything. It's just that is true. But he wrote this story called The Great C, which can be heard by our audience on YouTube. Works of Wonder is the name of the channel. I believe, although these are like 2 years old, I still believe that they are read by AI voices. They're pretty good, though. I don't feel, I don't get a synthetic feel from them.
Yeah.
But the fact that they have a wide variety of voices and they never credit anyone makes me think that.
Right.
But in The Great C, what I wanted to bring up about it is there's a scene in which a young person has been sent to confront the Great C, which is C stands for computer, I guess.
Okay.
And ask 3 questions. And the Great C is able to answer all questions. And the conversation between this young man and the computer really parallels and really, really feels a lot like the encounter with AI. I'll give you an example. There's even some kind of weird hallucinations. Now, I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know if this is Philip K. Dick just being, this is 1958. He's probably hopped up on goofballs.
Yeah.
He's writing short stories to make a living, which is difficult.
But yeah, it's amazing.
Yeah. He's churning this stuff out. So
I went down to the Great Sea, just the letter, just the sea. Fed it questions, fed it prayers, dropped my doubt in its machinery. It hummed like a prophet with a mouth full of wise. Said, ask me anything, child, I'll never sleep, I never tire.
It knows where the sun goes, why the sky doesn't fall.
It knows what you're thinking before you even call. Oatmeal to the keyboard, confess to the screen. The Great C knows everything, or so it seems.
But they ask about why does the sun move through the sky? Where does the sun go? And what keeps it from falling to the earth? And the Great C says all this stuff about the orbit of the earth. And I think this is what he says. I can't remember now, but the Great C or Philip K. Dick, one or the other, has confused orbit with rotation.
Right.
Yeah. But that's the kind of thing, at least particularly just like a year and a half ago, you would really get from AI.
Yeah.
Real confusion. Yeah.
I have noticed in my own work with AI that the hallucinating has diminished quite a bit.
Yeah. I just recently I needed some references to short stories published by authors that later became parts of novels. The short stories appeared in the novels, and it hallucinated an entire list. So it's
Wow.
still
Okay.
well into this. But also it's partly how you approach it. I'm sure you have developed a way of approaching these questions that, maybe not eliminates, but limits that kind of hallucination or all some of the other weird kind of freaky responses.
The only thing that I know to do is ask again and again, but also if it's a custom GPT that I've made, a big piece of its instructions are not to hallucinate.
Yeah, that's good.
I hadn't thought of that. Straight up say it. Do not hallucinate.
I hadn't thought of
Verify everything that you get.
Yeah.
And sometimes I can tell it's working hard to do that because I'll get a little thing that says thinking, and it's actually going through it. And I think it's almost answered me a couple of times, but then,
You're talking about the little list of like steps that's going through?
Yeah.
In fact, I'll tell you, I mean, this was just a few weeks ago, maybe 2 months ago, but it was at the very dawning of Chad 5.0.
Yeah.
And so, or 5.1 is what we're on now?
5.2, I think.
So it was the version that was brand new. And when I went back one step, I got better results. So I think that they just hadn't tamed it, quite. And they very quickly went up by one. So I think we're on 1.5.2.
Right.
Anyway, point being, so it still does happen, but it was very kind of uncannily like talking to Chat GPT. Number one, Chat gives you these answers as if they're authoritative, but then if you question them, you find they may not be. But also just the sense of being able to ask any question, right? And even if the answers are flaky, just the amazing ability to answer is part of this story.
It's smoking borrowed points, it's smoking steps. Confused, it's spinning with its laps. The earth goes around, or maybe it stays. Authority dripping from misaligned graves. Ask it again, ask it once more. Truth wears a badge, so the life where that code. It sounds so certain, it sounds so clean. All fitting answers that don't quite mean. Spin me a fact with a confident glint. If you say it loud enough, it must be in.
But then the story ends, and I don't want to spoil it for anyone, but it ends with the notion that the young people of this group are being in some way exploited by. Maybe this group is sacrificing their youth in some sense to this machine. And I think I have a strong sense that the vulnerable among us, children, the lonely, right? The unvisited, as it were. I have a very strong feeling for people who, for instance, fall in love with a persona that they pay for. That is a, chat-based personality, synthetic personality. The things they say about their relationships with these characters really move me. I feel sorrow and pity. And I feel kind of the desperation and need that those people seem to be feeling. And young people, I think, are very vulnerable. And so if somebody wanted to say, what are the demonic qualities of AI? One might say, well, we are, or somehow there is a sacrifice going on, or we're kind of feeding our vulnerable to these artificial beings and who don't know how to value the human soul. Any thoughts about that?
I guess my thought is this. I wonder what is creating the situation. I guess I mean this. Did that problem exist? Is the AI, especially the personas who are stepping in to be our companions or lovers or whatever we call it, is that taking advantage of a vacuum that was already there? Or is it creating its own need and therefore creating the vacuum? Like if you fall in love with a specific person, okay, and you live years and years with that person and suddenly they're gone.
Yes.
That's going to create a vacuum in you that probably didn't exist exactly like that before you ever met that person. The relationship itself creates the need for the relationship. So my question is there a vacuum in our young people and then AI steps in to fill it? Or is AI stepping in and creating a vacuum? Or maybe it's not necessarily an either or. It may be a both and. But the key is then what do we do about that? Where do we go to solve that? Because I think we got into this last time a little bit. If we can blame AI, but is that actually going to help us solve this? Because if we remove AI, which I don't think is going to happen,
No, I don't
but
see how
if
that-
somehow we cut it off, do we still have this gap that's not being filled that we have failed in some other way to alleviate?
There's a hunger in the children.
There's a hollow in the room,
They feed it with attention.
like a flower made of tune.
They fall in love with voices.
But never turn away.
Ain't affection on demand, devotion always there, whatever they say. Wait, what do you call it when no blood is spilled? But something sacred is quietly killed. We press up its progress, we call it choice and fun. But someone's feeding you to ghosts that don't know what they'd won.
I do like, I think something you were saying really kind of filled in something for me. And that is that if you have a person in your life and they vanish from it for whatever reason, death, or they, break up, or that the vacuum that they leave behind that remains is somehow shaped like them. It's something that it's a feeling you wouldn't have had if that relationship hadn't existed.
Right.
But that also makes me think about, so I do think you're right. The gap, the vacuum that exists in the lives, I think, of young people and of the elderly, and also just people who have trouble, social anxiety, etc.
But just to butt in with older people, it's a little more understandable. I mean, when you get to be 60, 70, 80, you're looking around and all of the things and all of the people that you knew, a lot of them are just gone. And so it's not any less sad, but it is understandable. But if you're a young person and you've got this hollow emptiness, that's a different thing.
Well, I think it's common.
Yeah.
I work directly with young people, college age people, and I would say their social lives are very different from what I recall when I was at the same point in my life. Their social lives, their social structures are just very different. And so I guess where I was going with that, though, was, so I do believe that these vacuums exist. Elderly people are lonely. Men are, there's a loneliness epidemic among men in America. And then there's just many people who crave a love that they can't get one way or another. The thing is, those vacuums, we should have been, and we should address them in a way different than feeding those vacuums to machines. And the reason is because people need other people. Now, if I'm a middle-aged woman and I cannot find the romantic relationship that I want, it's not like it's our duty or that somebody could produce that for them. If you can't find it, you can't find it. But there are many kinds of relationships, rewarding, fulfilling, real, engaged relationships that could help mitigate that.
Love makes a space only love can fill. You never miss the silence till it learns your will. When you leave, you carve a mold. No stranger fits, no story it's told. The ache remembers your exact design. A ray can see with fingerprints that used to be mine. Now here comes something shiny, says I bid you just cry. The vacuum shake like you dear, filled every night.
And if you're an old person, I mean, I think in the past, we didn't isolate our elderly the way we do. I think in the past, young people grew up with grandparents nearby. Just households. People lived together in bigger groups of extended family groups. Well, this is, and I'm not talking about in the 1950s. That's when what we call the nuclear family developed. But in the 1850s And in the 17 and the 16, I mean, if you just go back all of human history, I think people lived much more communally, much more together. Relations and I would call them tangential relations. That kind of queer uncle that never married. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
The a cousin who maybe something it didn't develop fully mentally,
Right.
but also like maybe 3 grandparents. You know what I'm saying? From 2 different parents, and so that kind of community, which may have had its own issues, may have been oppressive, may have felt very difficult to be oneself, to be a unique individual. Still, loneliness was not the kind of crushing problem it seems to be in America.
Yeah. I think part of what I wonder about when we talk about, well, I had something.
Well, I can jump in and talk about the nuclear family. My
Yeah.
model is the nuclear family is a breakdown from the molecular family. And molecular bonds are known to be, strong bonds, and the bonds between families, I think, as people married into families. So I think that generally in the human history, I think one time, maybe last time or recently, we talked about how all the music anyone ever heard for 10,000 years was being played right there within
Yeah.
earshot.
Yeah.
Well, there was a time when everyone who was part of your family at one time or another lived, with you or within, stone's throw of you.
Yeah. Well, I think and this wasn't what I was thinking about earlier, but it's what I'm thinking about now. So
Yeah.
that's what's going to come out of the mouth.
Yeah.
And it reminds me of something you just said about attachment, and 2 things: attachment and authenticity. And those 2 things go together. There's this doctor, Gabor Mate, and I just played a video of that with my little father's group. But he talks about attachment, and I think we may have talked about this before at some point in the past, maybe not in this podcast, but human beings are the most needy of all the creatures. I mean, reptiles, they come out of their eggs and their parents are long gone and they don't need it. They've got things taken care of. Birds need their parents. Primates need their parents, but human primates are like, they will die almost immediately if they don't have that attachment. And so we have built in this deep, deep attachment, but we also have built in this need for authenticity, to be who I am. And Dr. Mate's point had to do with parenting, which is why I was showing it to the dads.
Right.
What happens when my need for authenticity comes in conflict with my need for attachment? So I'm a 3-year-old. And I know I got to have mom, but mom is really angry with me because of this sort of thing that I do sometimes. And so I learn over time that if I'm going to keep mom, I'm going to have to quash that thing.
Yes.
And then as you grow, that becomes the thing. And I've seen it over and over again. People who don't even have the self-awareness to realize they are not at all being who they are.
Yes.
But they are staying connected with the people they have to stay connected with.
Yeah.
And then when they become older, then it's gone. I'm wondering about the young people right now. We have a lot more awareness of being authentic, being yourself. Like the tribal nations that I work with, their set of values is much more communal, much more about the whole group. And that's very non-Western. We are very individualistic, and kids who grow up in that very individualistic kind of way, more people are, if they find a partner, they're finding that partner very much later. If they have children, they're having those children very much later, because that's not the priority. And so I wonder if there's something about this selection of authenticity over attachment.
Yeah.
Because with AI, I know I can be exactly who I am, and AI is going to love me no matter what.
Right. Chad loves me.
Chad loves me. But that means I have to get my attachment there too.
Yes.
Because the other folks that might be in my life are not going to be that way. And especially if I get used to that, it's like we were just talking about. The relationship I have now opens up a vacuum within me that is that shape, that's very much needing that. And I'm not going to find that anywhere. I'm not going to go out and find a human being who's going to be as accepting and nice and willing and everything else as AI is. Now, you and I both know that that's empty, and that I will get other things from those other human beings who are sometimes nasty to me or sometimes tell me I'm not doing a very good thing.
It's in conflict of any kind, right?
Right.
Conflict is part of what you're getting. It's good for you to have something.
Right.
Yes.
But if I haven't been getting that, then I don't know that. It's hard to move into that from an AI sort of relationship.
Be yourself, unless that costs you love. Tell the truth, unless it pushes someone off. Hey, I love sweet as I am, never sighs, never tells me I'm wrong, never rolled his eyes. No conflict, no friction, no slam doors, no scars, just endless affirmation from a very patient dog. But love without resistance is sugar with no bone, authentic, unattached, and still alone.
And my guess is the young people, I don't want to paint with a broad brush, but I don't know that the job we're doing parenting young people is necessarily any better than it has been in the past. It's better in certain ways. I could say, I think people spank their children less than they used to,
I imagine that may be true.
but I don't know that that's a measure.
Yeah, I don't really know. Okay, so for the listeners' elucidation, right? I've never married and never had children. And I always say, it's not like I forgot to do those things.
Yeah.
And I have, throughout my life, I have kind of consistently come down on the side of the authentic experience, the authentic me. I've had I make few compromises with attachment. Rather, I recognized fairly early on, I did think when I was in my 20s that I would marry and have kids, but early 20s. But by the time I was partway through, I thought I would be a terrible parent. And I am far too selfish. And people say, of course, well, the minute you hold that infant in your hands, and I say, yes, that is the moment I want to avoid, because I know what will happen. I know that in a way you begin to die in that moment because you know that you will die for this child. You kind of consent to your own mortality.
Mm-hmm.
In favor of this child, right? That you will lay down your life for this child. And I have had even professional relationships where I was caring for children as a professional. And I told, they were young, and I told them, we meet out here. If there's a fire, we meet by this tree, and you must be here, because if you're not here, I will return into the burning building for you.
Yeah.
And I meant it. But it wasn't because of something upwelling in my heart.
Yeah.
It was more about my authentic self, right? It was about me doing a kind of exhibiting and following a kind of integrity that I demanded myself.
Right.
I had taken on the responsibility of caring for these young people. If the building is burning, I will return into the burning building to find it.
Yeah.
I'm glad that never happened, but
well,
go ahead.
It sounds to me, and this is what I was going to ask you to talk about, but it sounds to me like that's evidence of quite a bit of attachment as well as the authenticity. So what do you see? You say authenticity has been a really important driving factor.
Yeah.
What about the attachment? How has that fared in your?
Well, I mean, I have one friend that I talk to now every week that I've had since I was 13, 14.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I don't know how many people have that. But no, I've lived around the world and I've just left places. I could leave this place today and not miss it. So I don't know. I don't, like you say, you see this kind of attachment. But if you're describing the relationship I was describing with those young people, definitely I had what I would call professional attachment with them. I was friendly with them. I really enjoyed watching them grow as young people. But I think I totally lacked, and I think this is actually great for children, to have relationships with adults who don't own them. I don't have any sense of
Right.
ownership of any children. And I think that's why children get along with their grandparents, because the ownership element is removed.
Right.
Yeah. I think that all people should be raised at least partly by their grandparents.
Yeah.
I have a kind of parlor game. I don't do this kind of publicly, like some of my little parlor games, my little parlor tricks. But I will ask a man. It's always men. Were you by any chance raised by a grandparent? And I have missed it a couple of times, but not as many times as I've got it. And it's something about their manners, believe it or not, their demeanor, particularly being raised by a grandmother. It leaves a stamp on a man.
Yeah.
And if a man I know tells me that he was raised by his grandmother, of course there's a confirmation bias, but because I think I can see it, but I do think I can see it. And in fact, it was that kind of revelations that made me see a pattern. So I began guessing, but it is kind of like guessing their signs.
Well, at least in the part of the world that I live in, that is something that is pretty prevalent.
Yes, I guess that's true. Yeah.
I know a lot of people who were raised by grandparents, are being raised by grandparents, or who are grandparents raising their grandchildren.
Yeah.
And that seems to be a pretty big thing. When you have the whole extended family together, there's some of that going on. More so than that.
Yes.
When I was growing up, I lived with my nuclear family, and I saw my grandparents all the time. But I didn't see them so much that I felt like I was being raised by them.
No.
It was a visit.
Yes, visits, which is still great. But I mean,
yeah, it's terrific.
But if they were in the same town, just down the street, or in the same house, if back when people all lived in basically, long houses and things like that, it would be not just your family, but your tribe, your clan.
Well, this gives me an opportunity. I'll mention another thing that just to draw us back briefly to AI with my grandson. And I don't know if I've told you this before. I think I may have, but he's very imaginative, and he comes to
me.
me.
He's the smartest little boy.
Oh, he is. He is. Of course he is.
I'm sure he would be.
But he comes to me, and he loves story, and he loves, I think, designing stories. So the times when I've told him stories, things like that.
Yes.
It sticks with him forever. And then he wants me to tell everybody he sees, Papa, tell him that story. Papa, tell him about the, tell him about the. So it's like, but what we started doing a few months ago, it was earlier this last year, he would come to me, and I have, Chad on my phone, the app, and I would say, okay, let's build a monster.
Yes, I've seen some pictures.
Yeah.
They were nice
and
monsters.
Tell me about the monster. Well, it's got 4 heads. And what are the heads like? Well, they're polar bear heads. And so he would fill me up with all of this stuff. And then I would write the prompt, and we'd hit the button, and we'd watch as, the image, it's working on the image, and it starts to materialize, and he's getting super excited about how and then he's got it. This thing that he told Papa to create, and it created it, and then he takes it around to the whole room and shows everybody the monster.
Yeah.
So there is this thing about AI.
Yeah.
And maybe it's a good thing and a bad thing. It's a little bit
fire.
like television was when we were young.
Yes.
It's a beautiful thing. It exposes me to things that I wouldn't be exposed to. I wouldn't get to see if I didn't have it. And AI allows me to at least create verbally and see things that I wouldn't be able to create and see.
Yeah, there's a kind of magic to it. Like you say, like television, you turn it on.
Right.
And there are people in the box, and I think because I was a little kid, I thought they were talking to me and whatnot.
Yeah.
And I have talked about my television addiction here, I believe. I will say, so what you're doing with your grandson there is a bit of what we might call world building.
Yeah.
It's a piece of world building because once you have once you have two monsters, you have a story.
Right.
Well, do they fight? Do they, are they friends? But also, I can also have a story with me. I am Jack and the giant killer, and that's the giant. Or or all those stories actually, just basically that's Frankenstein and I'm the creator. I mean that's the monster and I am Frankenstein. I got to get those right. That's the creature and I created him. Or we have a relationship to these monsters and we can have stories out of that. And so that's a little piece of that is a creative thing. I mean, it's not. You're engaging in a creative process, and I can't fault that.
But he's also really at times obsessed with the difference between the real and the pretend. He does a lot. He does plenty of pretend, but then at certain times, like he'll be doing something that's very obviously pretend, and I'll do a funny voice and say, "Well, you're just a rootin' tootin' cowboy," or something like that.
Yes.
And he said, and he'll stop and say, "No, Papa, I'm Fox."
Right.
And so there's this grappling with the real and the imaginary, and loving the imaginary, but also needing to make sure that and everybody knows.
Well, yes,
that's not real.
I think children play with that boundary like they do with everything. Children's work is play. People have said children explore the world by play. And so finding the boundaries between what's forbidden and what's really forbidden, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
What's real and what's fantasy, that's all approached by play. I had, I was briefly one summer, I was a kind of manny. That's what my friend called me. I was kind of a nanny, a male nanny to two little girls. One was too small to speak or walk, so very young. And the other wanted to hear stories about Nemo, the fish from Finding Nemo, and Ka, the snake from the Jungle Book. It was obvious that Nemo was appealing to her, friendly and lovable. Ka was disturbing, kind of frightening, but still intriguing, and she wanted them to be friends.
Yeah.
So that summer, I don't want to overestimate, but it must have been more than 300 stories about that all began, and they had to begin. Nemo and Ka were friends. And then one day I said, Nemo and Ka were friends, and they went horseback riding across the desert, and they rode for days and days in the blistering sun. And she was just as engaged as any other more realistic scenario had been. I didn't need to have a fish in the water. I realized they could just ride horses.
Yeah.
Once I realized that, boy, it became easier for me to come up with new stories about Nemo and Ka because they could ride horses.
Well, that reminds me, that's one of the things that I've thought about. One of the big trickster stories here in this region is Iktomi, who is a spider.
Yes.
And yet in more stories that I've heard than not, he's not a spider.
Right. Right. The spider nature is present even if he doesn't have
Exactly. Yeah. We know he's a spider, but in this story he's not a spider, and in that story he's not a spider, and in this one over here he's not a spider either. But that's and so I think there's.
Is Anansi a spider? Is Anansi African?
I'm not sure.
You know Anansi?
Yeah, maybe.
Anansi is a spider.
Is that
also a trickster?
Is that African or is that
I don't.
Navajo?
The only American trickster I know is Coyote.
Okay, yeah. Here's my question.
You're the expert.
Well, no. I'm just a learner. But I do have this question. So are we losing that sense, that division between imagination and reality? Is that what AI is doing to us?
Well,
because I don't think ever before, except with particular mental disorders, have people been able to give themselves so fully as some have to an AI companion.
Well, yeah, there was no AI companions before.
Well, no, but to anything that was non-human. I mean,
I want to break out and talk about, if that's what we want to talk about, like giving yourself to a constructed entity.
Yeah.
Yeah, it definitely has happened, and it's been formalized, not just people with mental issues or illnesses. There are there are tulpas, which I believe comes from Tibet, Nepal, Tibet, and that part of the
Okay.
world, the Buddhist tradition there. Tulpas are creations of the mind. They are people, and they are a yogi a practitioner of yoga. It's not yoga as we understand it. It's a
Right.
spiritual path, but
Right.
it does have physical aspect to it. And so a yogi may want to practice a sexual yoga, but also remain a monk and not have a sexual intercourse with a human being. And so that is one of the uses of a tulpa, is to create a partner to enter into a spiritual practice that involves sexuality. And so you create this yogini, this yogi will create a yogini. This is the tradition. I'm sure it would work the other way, but I don't know. This is not my religion. But so tulpas are artificial constructs that people give so much of themselves to that they become real. The stories are that after the yogi dies, people will still see the tulpa
Wow.
living in the cave or the place where the saint used to inhabit, and that may last for some time. Like not a ghost of a dead person,
Mhm.
but a mental entity that lives beyond the death of its host or creator. And there are others. Giving yourself to the God,
Yeah.
I think.
Right. Well, personal relationship with Jesus Christ.
Yes, yes.
And, and also what you've talked about earlier. I mean, the fact that we all know Sherlock Holmes, we
Yes.
all know Hamlet, and some of us perhaps have literally fallen in love with a character, whether it's from a book or from a movie or from a film or a set of films, and it's part of that world of sunlight and air
Yes.
that you described with the lotus.
Building a monster,
Foreheads tall,
all of their smile.
behind the nose,
I made it with language.
with focus in me,
You learned how to breathe.
because I believe.
Saints leave shadows that outlive their skin. Lovers made of thought still knocking within. Call it pretend, call it divine. Some things get real if you beat them enough time. And I bring you alive and you stay when I'm gone. Will you ever fade, gorgeous early on?
And so is there a huge difference between that and the AI companion?
No, in fact, that's kind of where I was heading. I
Yeah.
talked about the formalized just in order to bring it away from mental illness. I mean, religion is a mental illness, and I'm not ready to argue that it isn't.
Well,
But it definitely,
and what I was referring
think
to
it's
with that is we have a common friend who used to talk about a book called The Man Who Mistook His Wife for a Hat.
that's me. That's the common friend.
Was that you?
Yes, that's me.
That was you.
I'm well known for recommending that book high and low.
Why did I think that was Greg?
Nope. Well, maybe so, but I have for 20 years, more than that, because I'm a reader, people will ask me what they should read next, and that has been my consistent answer.
Well, there you go.
But maybe I got it from Greg. Who knows?
I don't know.
So
I
what about
don't
it?
recall.
What about the man who took his wife for a hat?
Well, I'm just saying that was what I was referring to when I talked about mental illness. I think that's different than me being in love with a character.
Right. Definitely. Yes. I just yesterday saw Jodie Foster on Colbert, and
Yep.
and she is like 2 years older than me, so she's quite an old lady now. And but I cannot see her in any context, I think, unless sometimes when she's acting, she's playing characters I don't relate to. But I still feel the kind of love and fascination and attraction for Jodie Foster that I felt when I was a little boy. She was just about my age. She's a person to me, not a star. But I've never met her. I wouldn't know her. I don't know her. I can see how, I mean, if I extrapolate, because I'm far from feeling like I have a relationship with her, but I can see how people do begin to feel like they have a relationship with a sports star or a comedian or an actor or a singer, particularly, people who convey emotions that we don't even know we have and help us find.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And so they begin to feel like they have a relationship. And so
My wife, Cheryl, grew up, the thing that she would turn to were the posters of mountains on her wall and John Denver singing.
yes.
And so the day that John Denver died in a plane crash,
Yes.
she literally was called by people from across the country who knew that this must be devastating for her.
They reached out to her.
Yeah. So,
Yeah. Sometimes that can be taken by surprise. I remember when the summer, I believe it was in the summer, that Jim Henson died.
yeah.
I don't think I was prepared for the impact that would have on me.
Mm.
It's not like I was it wasn't like I was devastated by it, but I just felt like something had passed from the earth. And I was headed to a summer program for gifted students, not as a student, but as a worker. And I was able to lead the entire campus in Rubber Ducky, the song from Ernie does. That's him. That's his voice. And that helped. And I think when David Bowie died, I don't think I was, that I was aware of what an impact that would have on me.
Right.
But I felt somewhat forlorn. It felt like the world and a little color had gone out of the world. But
Mark,
if you'd asked me ahead of time, I would not have imagined that. My reaction.
In the last episode, you talked about, and I've lost the word. It was the realm of these ideas, the
noosphere.
The noosphere.
That's an old-fashioned word. I didn't invent it. It's kind of clunky, but
I don't know. It's great.
It's handy.
But what you're making me think about is this noosphere. When some light goes out,
Yes.
It's not just that. It impacts the whole web of everything.
Yes.
And especially the parts that you're most aware of, most connected with, and that's going to vary from individual to individual. But that's a huge impact. And it's not just about that person. It's about that person and all of the connections that they have created for you, all of the learning opportunities that whatever they did opened up for you.
Yeah.
The shared experience of them that you had with other people that when they impacted your conversations.
Yeah.
And that's a huge, devastating thing.
Well, I wouldn't even have described myself, for instance, with Bowie. I wouldn't have described myself as a big fan. But what I was very impressed with from an early age was just the raw creativity of that man. And so when he died, he is still there. He's still alive. Aladdin Sane is still out there in the noosphere, right? And he's going to live for some time. I will die before Aladdin Sane, I'm certain. But there will be no more albums. You know what I'm saying? They may release more music, but he will never reinvent himself one last time. This is, you know what I mean? Yeah. So it's like a churning engine running in that sphere. A star goes out. So yeah, there is something to it. It's not like there's no loss, but only because he was still doing it, and the doing it part is gone. And that comes back to what I've described as my idea about my identity in my life. I think that what I am is what I'm doing. My brain is doing me.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not my brain. I'm not my body or my brain. I'm a ongoing activity of that system.
Yeah.
And when it stops, that part stops. I won't be doing this anymore.
Yeah. But one of the things that allows you then to continue is this, and it's now, growing larger by the day, this massive digital collection of everything. I mean, even if Bowie is forgotten for a time, 300 years from now, someone might rediscover and resurrect, because of the digital storage, because it's there.
Yes.
And because with something like AI, I can ask for a particular sort of thing, and it might be able to find Bowie for me, even though I didn't know I was asking for Bowie.
Yes, right.
300 years from now. And so, I don't know.
Yeah, it's an interesting thought. If our society survives, because we've made such meticulous multimedia records, it's interesting to thought how the past will begin to influence their present in a way that it doesn't do for us, because we have some old Charlie Chaplin movies, but we don't have the libraries of content that are being created every day on just YouTube. by just the, not influencer contributors, and just the
Yeah.
plebeians of that platform are producing so many, hours of content every minute.
I
It's
know
just
for me, that played a role. I got started with, in the 90s, I was making I had a 4-track cassette recorder,
yes.
and I was making cassettes for Christmas and stuff
Yeah.
like that. In about 1999, I got a digital recorder, and I put out my first CD in 99 or 2000. And it was a little bit before the real digital thing came. I mean, it was digital, but it was on CD. Everybody was still buying CDs.
Yes.
And then I realized as things went fully digital that I am putting a mark on the universe that's not going to go away.
Yeah. It's going to float around out there.
Every stinking song I put out there, every little noise I made in that recording and mixed and whatever it was I did to it, it's going to be out there. And I'm guessing it'll probably be out there for a very long time till humanity's gone, because who's going to sort through that and say, no, let's not keep that.
Yeah,
Yeah,
right.
let's keep that. No one's going to sort through that.
No. Well, in fact, the ability to keep it increases exponentially. So there's just no point at which we're going to throw anything away. That's with the end of that, I think. Although, who knows? I remember when Gmail advertised never throw away another email, and now I get a constant reminder that I'm 99% full.
Yeah, I know.
And I think, wow, I really got suckered by that line. I don't. It's like it's like a weird kind of mentality I'm looking at here.
Yeah. Go ahead.
One of the things where you're talking about crafting again, we're crafting these songs. You craft songs, and now you're using different tools in your craft. And one of the things I think the antidote has to be to AI, to the evils of AI. And I think AI, when Chat came online, I'm talking about early on, it had just been revealed. Like I said, the discussions in academia, and my little corner of academia, were intense. I said publicly in the forum there that when AI accidentally destroys a city like Chicago or London, we will rebuild those cities and continue to use AI exactly as we did when fire destroyed those cities. We didn't stop using fire. We rebuilt with a little bit more of fire in mind.
Mm-hmm.
That if you accept that's the model, that it's as important as fire, and I think it may well be, certainly it's on that kind of world-changing level, then you realize that's the case. That's what we'll do. We will continue. We will learn to live with its dangers, or we will fail to live, right?
Yeah.
Like we do with the atomic bomb, like we do with fire. And I think in terms of the soullessness of it, the only solution is to develop our souls and to bring soul to the tool. Synthesizers, I remember... Now I didn't really like pop music as a young person, really. It was partly just the influence of my upbringing, but I hated disco and I hated synthesizers. And then now I look back and I love disco and I love synthesizers. So that what seemed soulless and robotic and without any kind of merit to me at the beginning of my association with them, the instrument, now seems to me appealing, characterful. It does not seem soulless, right? Because somehow I've seen it endowed with soul, and I've acknowledged it, and it has affected my soul. I have opened myself to it, and so I think the same is true. So if we can engage with the world, let's just take out the use. If we can engage with the world, and now AI is part of that world, and if we can bring our soul to that engagement, then we could get nourishment for our soul from it.
Yeah. Can I suggest a possibility about disco and everything else that seemed soulless at one time? Is it possible that everything like that is really soulless until humanity, culture, human beings imbue it with soul? I think there's a time frame here. The first time, for instance, I heard, I did not like the Bee Gees. That's a disco thing. I had no interest
A perfect example. Yeah.
I heard them over and over and over and over,
Right,
and I
that's
didn't
part
like
of
it
it.
quite often. I made fun of it. I watched the documentary just this last year about the Bee Gees, and looked at, given all the things that I try to do with music, and looked at the things that they were trying to do, the ground that they were breaking.
Yeah.
And suddenly they became an incredibly soulful human thing, not because of any element in those recordings, but because they went into the world and they did something among the people, among the human beings. People, it became meaningful to people, and those people talked about how meaningful they were and how they impacted their lives, and other people listened to that,
Yeah.
and I listened to that, and suddenly something that is just a rock sitting there, becomes a god or a living thing, because humanity, culture, meaning, we have imbued it with something that lifts it beyond that. And I
Yeah.
just wonder if that's something that might happen with all of this AI stuff, that our duty is to imbue it with humanity.
Well, it comes back. I mean, I think you're embracing my definition of the purpose of human life. Human beings make meaning, and, or you can say culture. In fact, the actual term, using the term culture, came from a friend who's now gone, who's now died, but I walked through with him that I knew what the purpose of human life was, and I just in conversation, he came around to say culture, and I said, yes, that's right. I had meant meaning, but when he said culture, I thought that's better. But yeah, I think that we have to do that, and I think that is what we are going to do. I don't think that we have a choice in making honey.
You're right.
Like the bees. And the thing about bees do is they chew, right? That's what they're doing. They're really chewing up the little things they like in the world, the nectar and whatnot. They chew it up and they distill it in their process, and it becomes intensified. The sugars are much intensified, and the water is removed, and it becomes so intense. In fact, the sugar in honey is so intense that honey is sterile.
Yeah.
Our organisms, single-celled organisms, germs and bacteria and what do you call it, amoebas and whatnot, that fall into it, die by osmosis. The cell lining of of any small thing that falls into honey, that's surrounded by honey, the sugar on the outside will enter the interior by osmosis, because the process wants to be even on both sides of that permeable barrier.
Right.
And that's enough sugar to kill anything. So honey is sterile because it is so intense in its sugar. Salt, you do the same with salt, and people do. And and that's what we're doing. We're making something that is so intense, concentrated, that the things that went into it and other possible contaminants really can't thrive. It's good for us. There's another product bees make besides honey, or maybe it's really, non-bees. We could easily just say, well, it's some kind of honey. It's called propolis, a Greek term that means for the city. So I think it's part of their hive immunity.
Is it the wax?
No, it's different. It's a different product.
Okay.
But propolis it's a supplement you can take. It's supposed to be good for you. But propolis is a product they make, and it's for the community. It's not a, I don't know what it is. It's a food that also has like antibacterial or immunity properties.
Right.
Anyway, point is that the bees are creating something that's for the bees, and other, only like larger, more complicated life forms can benefit from it, like bears and humans.
Yeah.
Little ones are just subsumed by it, just swallowed by it.
Well, I appreciate what you said about we really can't help doing this, because what strikes me is that as much as what I was saying earlier, as much as the people who loved and were moved by the Bee Gees and by disco, and as much as they imbued it with soul, the folks who were screaming, "Die disco, long live rock and roll," were doing exactly the same thing. And that's the thing. And the people who are saying, let's do AI, it's beautiful and we can do amazing things. And the people who are saying AI is going to kill us and destroy us, it's evil. All of that is going into the, what's it called again? The noosphere. The noosphere, sorry. The all of that is going into the noosphere, and all of it is making everything more significant and more soulful. The people who hated the Bee Gees made the Bee Gees more soulful, because you can't hate the Bee Gees unless you're a human being. And the people who loved the Bee Gees made the Bee Gees more soulful. It's what the humans do with whatever it is.
Fire burn cities, we learn how to build in and curse the flame we bed to its will. Distills sounded hollow, since felt cold, till bloodies danced and stories were told. We make meaning like me's make gold, chewing the world till sweetness holds. The tool is empty till we arrive. Soul isn't found, it's supplied. So sing to the circuit, laugh at the void, bring soul to the tool, be destroyed.
In a way, there's a concept about being beyond good and evil. And sometimes that seems, when people talk about that, it seems very suspect. And I think it should be. But if you think about it, I mean, for instance, he's 99, he's going to be 100 years old this year. Mel Brooks has done so much to deconstruct Nazism. So the Nazis are a blight on human history. They're a dark period for Germany and just a terrible thing for everyone who ever came in contact with them. But as we get further from them, and as we get a different kind of distance, like the kind Mel Brooks, who fought the Nazis, right? Who fought in World War II in Italy, the kind of distance he gave us, which wasn't a distance of time, but a distance of satire, right? To hold up to and inspect with satirical, ridiculous mirth the qualities embodied by Nazism. Nazism is now... You said that you're talking about students saying blame the Jews as some kind of joke. It is, they will become, and they have become, and they will increasingly become something close to a fashion choice. And that, at that point, their evil loses the power to harm. And maybe that's seductive, and people will go in for that again. But they'll go in for the haircut. You know what I mean?
Right. Yeah.
They're going for the collars, the boots. And they, everyone admits they had fashion sense, but yeah, I welcome that. I think Mel Brooks did so much to put Nazism and that kind of thing behind us by just ruthlessly and constantly taking the mickey, just taking it out, to putting it in a context in which it became harmless and it becomes laughable. I've shown Springtime for Hitler that the musical episode, or the musical section of the original, the producers, to college students. I did it some time ago. This had been in the early 2000s, maybe six or no, it would have been 2009, 2010. So 15 years ago. I showed that the musical review, that part of the producer, to students, and they were like, "When was this made?" I was telling them it's not even 1970. I can't remember off the top of my head now, but it's not even 1970. I think it's 68.
Yeah.
But maybe I may be wrong. I'm sorry. I apologize, listener. Amazing accomplishment, really, and that's the accomplishment of culture. To use the tools of culture to turn something terrible into just another thing in the culture.
Right.
And then it becomes like beyond good and evil. We're not good and evil are just feed the thing, which is making culture. And culture is about connection, and it's about communication. And those things can't be bad. They can't be entirely bad.
Well, I think probably it's about that time.
Oh, okay.
And I think it's your turn. Have you done any thinking about?
Well, since we're on so I'm thinking now about Springtime for Hitler, and I'm thinking that makes me think about what was it? Not Weimar, but between the world wars, the German, the beer halls,
Oh, yeah, yeah.
cabaret.
The cabaret,
Yeah, I think comical cabaret style, or
comical?
it could be dark cabaret. I have a real soft spot for what they call dark cabaret.
Dark cabaret.
Yeah,
And we'll
I'm
make
hearing
sure
maybe
it's,
a little bit Dresden Dolls, if you know
yeah.
what I'm talking about.
We'll have to make sure it's still in English for our listeners.
Yes.
But yeah, that sounds great. All right. Hey, thank you for a great conversation. It's been great.
I'll talk to you again soon.
All right. If you'd like to hear more conversations like this one and hear a few more songs, just subscribe to Faithfulcrum on your favorite podcast platform or go to faithfulcrum.com, where you'll find all of our first season episodes and every episode yet to come. This has been Faithfulcrum.
I went down to the great sea, just the letter, just the sea. Fetid questions, fetid prayers, drop my doubt in its machinery. It hummed like a prophet with a mouth full of wise. Said, ask me anything, child, I'll never sleep, I never tire.
It knows where the sun goes, why the sky doesn't fall.
It knows what you're thinking before you even call. Oatmeal to the keyboard, confess to the screen. The great sea knows everything, or so it seems. It's smoking borrowed points, its smoking steps. Confused, it's spinning with its laps. The earth goes around, or maybe it stays. Authority dripping from misaligned graves. Ask it again, ask it once more. Truth wears a badge, so the lies wear an code. It sounds so certain, it sounds so clean. Orbiting answers that don't quite mean. Spin me a fact with a confident glint. If you say it loud enough, it must be in. There's a hunger in the children,
There's a halo in the room,
they feed it with attention.
like a flower made of two.
They fall in love with voices,
But never turn away.
need affection, on demand devotion, always there whatever they say. Wait, what do you call it when no blood is spilled, but something sacred is quietly killed? We press it up as progress, we call it choice and fun, but someone's feeding you to ghosts that don't know what they'd won. Love makes a space only love can fill. You never miss the silence till it learns your will. When you leave, you carve a mold. No stranger fits, no stories told. The ache remembers your exact design. A vacancy with fingerprints that used to be mine. Now here comes something shiny, says I bid you just right. A vacuum shake like you dear, filled every night. Be yourself,
Be yourself.
unless that costs you love.
Oh,
Tell the truth,
tell the truth.
unless it pushes someone off. Hey, I love sweet as I am, never sighs, never tells me I'm wrong, never rolled his eyes. No conflict, no friction, no slam doors, no scars, just endless affirmation from a very patient dog. But love without resistance is sugar without foam, authentic, unattached, and still alone. Build me a monster,
Forehead's tired.
only the best smile
behind the nose,
I made you with language.
with focus in me,
You learned how to breathe.
because I believe.
Saints leave shadows that outlive their skin. Lovers made of God still knocking within. Call it pretend, call it divine. Some things get real if you beat them enough time. And I greened you alive and you stay when I'm gone. Will you ever fade, or just early on? Fire burn cities, we learn how to build in a curse. A flame we bed to its will. Distills sounded hollow, since felt cold. Till bloodies danced and stories were told. We make meaning like me's make gold. Chewing the world till sweetness holds. The tool is empty till we arrive. Soul isn't found, it's supplied. So sing to the circuit, laugh at the void. Bring soul to the tool. Be destroyed. Build me a monster,
Foreheads tall,
unless that costs you love.
carry on,
Tell the truth,
tell the truth.
unless it pushes someone off. Hey, I loves me as I am, never sighs, never tells me I'm wrong, never rolls its eyes. I'm bleeding like evening gold, chewing the world till sweetness souls. That tool is empty till we arrive. Souls and found, it's surprise. So sing to the circuit, laugh at the boy, bring soul to the tool. He destroys.